What's going on, SA Gamers? It's Captain Curtis, and we're in our fourth lesson in our current Devo series, and our series is entitled Pro Tip. Hopefully you know that by now. It's week 4. So we're just going to jump right in and just pray that God speaks to you in some way during this lesson. So the title of the lesson is, If You Want to Be Heard, Use Gentle Words. So we've heard the saying, right? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's not exactly true, is it? Today, as I said, we're wrapping up our 4-week series called Pro Tip. And we've talked a lot about how wisdom is the one thing that can make you better at anything. If you've missed some or all of this series, that's okay. Each week, this is kind of its own thing. So you're right on time, and I think today will be helpful for you. So here's the thing, right? We know this. I hope you all know this. Words matter. And have you ever said these things? Have you ever started off a sentence with, "You would look better if," and then later regretted it? Have you ever said, "I can't stand that person," to seem cool to one group of friends when you're actually friends with that person in real life? Have you ever given a compliment to someone who later said it changed their entire day? Or started venting under the excuse of verbal processing, but knew you were just being mean and it damaged the relationship? Have you ever started sharing about something you're passionate about, but realized no one was listening? Have you ever used the privacy of the locker room as an excuse to talk about things you shouldn't have been talking about? Or sent a DM that if the other person screenshotted and leaked would have regrettable consequences? Words matter even more when you're facing conflict. How many of you have ever been accused of using words to hurt others? It felt really good at the time, but it wasn't until later in the day that you thought, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. Or how many of you have ever known what it feels like to say something without thinking, only to immediately regret it? Maybe you blurted out your opinion about something and didn't realize the person you were talking about was right behind you. Or maybe once you had the full story in context, your reaction made you feel like a jerk. Sometimes I get to the other side of a conflict and simply wish I had not said what I said. Maybe you can relate. Everyone handles conflict differently. Some people yell, some get quiet, some get defensive and blame others. But no matter what you do in conflict, words take center stage. The truth is, a lot of us don't understand the power of our words have. I didn't realize it until my friends continued to point out how my words created tension. Words have power in your relationships with friends, family, teachers, and even strangers, which is important to remember because I doubt most of us wake up and hope to be harsh with our words. Most of us aren't trying to be jerks, but the way we say things can rub people the wrong way and create tension in our relationships. It kind of works this way. We all understand how predictive text or search history works, right? You type something out enough times or search a specific phrase enough and it's stored in the memory of your phone. Anytime you go to type, your phone tries to be helpful by bringing up what it remembers from what you've said or typed before. Like for me, let's just see what happens. So I'm just going to start hitting the first predictive word that pops up on my phone, and I'll let you know what it says. So, I can park in the front door, and if you want to park in the front door, and I will let you know you can park in the front door. Apparently I write those words quite a lot. And I'm not sure really what that says about me, but you get the point. Words have a way of sticking with people. Like they stick with our phones. No matter how hard we try to take words back or clear their history, they tend to leave a lasting impact on the people who receive them, especially when they're harsh, hurtful, or just plain mean. But here's the most important part. One way our words with others are different than predictive text is that some words only need to be said once to do some pretty significant damage. That's why I can still remember mean things people said 20 years ago, even though they probably forgot they said them 20 seconds later. I can still remember 20 years later. That's the power of words. Some of you have lost friends over the words you've said or texted. Some of you have gotten into huge arguments with your parents because of the words they used or words you've used, causing some real damage. Some of you have teachers that get nervous to see you coming because they feel like you always have something disrespectful to say or your tone is always rude. What we say and how we say it often carries more power than we realize, and unfortunately, sometimes our relationships suffer because of our words. So what do? We have to use words to communicate. Is there a way for us to communicate during conflict without losing our cool? Is there a way to communicate that creates stronger friendships, healthier relationships, while also making a way for honesty? Well, we've been looking at the book of Proverbs throughout this series. Proverbs is a book in the Old Testament that includes a ton of short sayings and principles that communicate a specific truth to help us make better choices. Its main purpose is to teach us wisdom and the best way to live. And we're going to look at another verse from it today. Before we do that, I want to make a quick observation. Dealing with conflict isn't something that only our generation has dealt with, or your generation. We're not the same generation. I'm older than you. You aren't the first, and you won't be the last at learning how to do this. Learning how to use your words isn't something that only modern teenagers have struggled with. In other words, human beings have been dealing with conflict and words for a long time. It's a timeless battle, which means even though what we're going to look at today was written thousands of years ago, it is timeless, universal truth. And it goes like this. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. It's from Proverbs 15. Like many verses in Proverbs, this one is communicating two different choices, opposites even. In this case, it's the choice we have when it comes to how we use our words. Let's start with the second half of the verse, or the second choice. A harsh word stirs up anger. At this point, it would probably be helpful to define what a harsh word is. I would say a harsh word, or harsh words, are unpleasant words that are usually spoken with an angry tone, usually with the intention of shutting down the conversation, proving a point, or hurting someone. If you've recently been in trouble in an argument or a disagreement, you probably know what I'm talking about. You felt that urge to say something sarcastic, rude, or disrespectful. Any of those things qualify as the harsh words that Proverbs is referring to. Now let's go back to the first part of that proverb to see a different choice when it comes to using our words. It says, a gentle answer turns away wrath. Gentle words make it harder to be mad. Jesus was a great example of this. There are certain times when Jesus used harsh language to call out religious leaders who were wrong. But there are also examples of Jesus applying the heart behind this proverb. One example was written down by Jesus' best friend, John. He writes about religious leaders trying to con Jesus into making a statement that would allow them to either stone a woman or take Jesus to court. Stoning is literally throwing rocks at someone until they die, just in case you didn't know that. But what does Jesus do? In an intense moment, he stoops down and writes in the dirt, and eventually says something that people to this day still quote. To the angry leaders, he basically says, whoever is perfect, whoever has never sinned, throw the first rock and start the process to kill her. Intense, right? But what happens to the vengeful crowd? They literally turn and walk away. In the same way Jesus' response turned away the angry crowd, your words can diffuse the situation when it comes to somebody's anger with you. Your gentle words can literally turn away their anger. Think about it. Whether it's with your mom, your brother, or somebody you're fighting with, when you speak nicely to them, it's really hard for them to keep escalating the argument. If they say something awful and you respond with gentleness, it's really awkward for them to keep coming at you. When it comes to dealing with conflict and arguments, wisdom says that technically we have two choices. And even though really there's just one choice, if we want what's best for others and ourselves, we can respond with gentle words or harsh words. If we want to shut down the conversation and have tension in our relationships, harsh words are the clear choice. But here's what wisdom teaches us. If you want to be heard, use gentle words. To clarify, gentleness is not weakness. It's the opposite. It's power under control. What Jesus said to those religious leaders was the opposite of weakness. Gentleness is wisdom flexing its muscles, which also means it's not compromising on what's true. Pros know that there's power in using gentle words. You have the power to impact people positively or negatively. Your words have more power and influence over the situation than you may think. If you want to keep your influence with your friends, family, and other adults, you need to use gentle words. When it comes to dealing with conflict in relationships, the question you have to ask yourself is this: would you rather make a point or be heard? Because oftentimes making a point and being heard are not the same thing. Making a point is about your ability to clap back at a person and shut down the conversation. It's about winning. It's about who has the wittiest comeback. And you say what you want to say, and it may even feel good in the moment, but the other person doesn't leave thinking better of you. When one side wins, the relationship loses. Being heard means communicating clearly. This happens when you intentionally do everything in your power to make sure the other person understands you and not just what you are saying. This isn't flawless. Sometimes you can do everything in your power and still not be fully understood by someone else. But no matter what, you can watch your tone and choose your words carefully because you value the relationship more than you value winning in the moment. So what does that look like in real life? I suggest trying this. If you want to be heard, then be the first one to hear. This automatically sets you up to respond more gently. After hearing out the other side, it can sound like responding with, "So what I'm hearing you say is," and then just repeat back what you think you heard, not with a spin on it, just in your own words. If the other person feels heard and understood, they will feel connected, and they will be more likely to listen to you. And that means if you want to be heard by someone else, you must be the first one to hear. Being heard is about learning how to listen. Being heard is about learning how to listen. And I want you to consider taking a time out. When you take an intentional pause, take some deep breaths, go on a short walk, or go into another room and pray, you can calm down and truly consider the other side, which can help you think of a more gentle response. See, just bringing a little calm, patience, and kindness into your words in the situation can go a long way. You can still be honest about how you feel and what you want, just say it in a different tone with different words, because the approach matters. If you want to be heard, use gentle words. Imagine how different your friendships and relationships would be if everyone chose to use gentle words. Think about the impact on your school or your community or the entire world. Using gentle words can make a big difference, both on the way others experience you and in the way you're heard by others. So, this week, I want you to think about this question. How are you currently using the power of your words? Well, that's the end of our series, Pro Tips. I really pray that someone learned something from God over this series. I pray for all of you every day. I hope that you are doing well. And if you need to talk to somebody, there's plenty of us here on SA Gaming that would love to hear from you and help you talk through whatever is going on in your life. God bless you. We love you. And we'll see you soon.